On September 26, 1983, the survival of the human race came down to one tired Soviet officer deciding to do nothing. His computer screen screamed that 5 American nuclear missiles were inbound. Protocol said launch everything in response. He hesitated. And because Stanislav Petrov trusted his gut over the machine, you are alive to watch this video. Here's the thing nobody tells you about how civilization ends. It almost never dies from one big blow. It dies from dominoes. One small shock knocks over the next, and the next, until the whole interconnected machine of modern life grinds to a halt. So I built a map of every major way it could happen, 8 pathways, ranked not by how scary they sound, but by how genuinely close we've come. And stick around, because the final one isn't an asteroid or a bomb. It's something we are building on purpose, right now, and some of its own creators are terrified of it. Let's start with the slow killers. Number 8 is crop failure. We treat food like it just appears, but the entire planet leans on a handful of staple crops and a tiny number of exporting countries. The Irish potato famine of 1845 proved how fragile that is. One blight on one crop killed roughly 1 million people and forced another 2 million to flee. And here's the uncomfortable part. According to the IPCC's 6th assessment report, climate change is already destabilizing yields, with some scenarios projecting around 10% of global cropland becoming unsuitable by 2050. Now multiply a famine across many bread baskets at once, which is exactly the kind of chaos our next item could trigger. Number 7, the super-volcano. In April 1815, Mount Tambora erupted in Indonesia and threw so much sulfur into the stratosphere that the entire next year had no summer. 1816 brought frost in June, failed harvests across the northern hemisphere, and famine on multiple continents. And that was a VEI 7. A full VEI 8, the Yellowstone tier, would be vastly worse. The good news? The USGS says the annual odds are extraordinarily tiny. The bad news is that tiny is not zero, and there is no off switch for a volcano. Speaking of things with no off switch, let's go to space. Number 6, the asteroid. On June 30, 1908, an object exploded over Tunguska, Siberia, with the force of 10 to 15 megatons. It flattened roughly 2,150 square kilometers of forest in seconds. No crater, just instant devastation. If that object had arrived a few hours later, Earth's rotation would have placed a major city directly underneath it. Let that sink in. The dinosaurs got the kilometer-sized version 66 million years ago, and they didn't have NASA tracking the sky. We do, but we still haven't cataloged every rock out there. Number 5, the global grid collapse. This one is sneaky because electricity is invisible until it's gone. In March 1989, a geomagnetic storm from the sun slammed into Quebec's power grid and blacked out the entire province in 90 seconds, hitting up to 9 million people. In 2012, India suffered a cascading failure that left over 600 million people in the dark. Now picture a Carrington-class solar storm frying transformers across whole continents, with replacements taking months to build. No power means no water pumps, no refrigeration, no internet, no hospitals. The lights going out is just the trailer. Okay, let me stop us right here, because you might be noticing the pattern. None of these horrors stay in their own lane. A blackout starves the food supply. A famine collapses the economy. A pandemic crashes the grid because the workers running it get sick. That interconnection is the real monster. The individual disasters are just the spark. Which brings us to number 4, the pandemic. The 1918 flu infected about a third of humanity and killed somewhere between 17 and 50 million people in an era before mass air travel. COVID-19, which the WHO tracked killing millions, showed us the modern version. Supply chains snapped, hospitals overflowed, economies froze. Now imagine an engineered pathogen, deliberately built to be more lethal and more contagious. Same dominoes, designed by human hands. Number 3, financial collapse. I know, spreadsheets aren't scary. But on September 15, 2008, Lehman Brothers went bankrupt, and the IMF documented global output contracting in the following year as credit froze worldwide. Money is just trust. When trust evaporates, trade stops, jobs vanish, and governments lose the capacity to respond to every other disaster on this list. It's the amplifier that makes everything else deadlier. Number 2. Nuclear war. Back to our friend Petrov. The Cuban Missile Crisis and his 1983 false alarm prove the same terrifying truth. The fate of everyone hung on individual humans not pushing a button. And the bombs are only half of it. The 1983 TTAPS research, confirmed by modern climate models, shows that soot from burning cities could trigger a nuclear winter, collapsing global agriculture for years. So nuclear war isn't one pathway. It's 5 of these dominoes falling at once. And finally, the one I promised you. Number 1. Artificial intelligence. On May 30th, 2023, the Center for AI Safety released a single sentence signed by hundreds of the field's top researchers and CEOs. Mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside pandemics and nuclear war. Read that again. The people building it are comparing it to nukes. Because AI doesn't need to hate us. It just needs access to the systems running our power grids, our markets, our weapons, our information, and one catastrophic misalignment to pull every domino at once. That's what makes it the master key to this entire map. So here's the take worth repeating. Civilization isn't a fortress waiting for one giant cannonball. It's a row of dominoes, and we just keep setting them closer together. The reassuring news is that every single one of these required a human to push or a human to refuse. If you want to see exactly how close one Soviet officer came to ending it all, watch our deep dive on Stanislav Petrov next. Trust me, it'll keep you up at night.